Joining me today on the Capital TV show, Mick Mulroy, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense. How are you, Mick?
Great, and great to be with you today.
Thank you. You represented the Secretary of Defense in many interagency meetings in dealing with many countries from the Middle East. Can we know what discussion you were involved in?
So, Maria, as you might expect, many discussions. I think if I was to narrow down a few that were probably the most significant, the first would be how we, the United States, dealt with Iran, our policy toward Iran, which included the decision to withdraw from the nuclear agreement, which we did in 2018, and then the maximum pressure campaign that followed, and essentially how we tried to deal with their ambitions toward a nuclear weapon and dealing with proxy forces such as the Houthis in Yemen, Hezbollah in Syria, Lebanon. That was probably the most significant. And as you might remember, we got pretty close to an actual conflict there at certain times. I'd say the second, and something dear to my heart, because I've worked there before, would be Yemen. During my time at the Pentagon, the secretary, at the time, Secretary Mattis, asked us to do a study, essentially, pulling together all facets of society, whether it's economics, military, political, humanitarian aid, and come up with a plan for Yemen, which ended up being called the Yemen Steering Initiative. And I think that was probably one of the things I was most proud of. And then dealing with Syria and defeating ISIS, that was, from a policy perspective, obviously in the Middle East, and that was a substantial effort, a global effort of over 80 countries that defeated ISIS and took back the territory that they had dominated during their time.
In contrast of Iran, there is the United Arab Emirates. It's like a symbol of reconciliation. How do you see the role of this country or the contribution of the United Arab Emirates in tolerance, in stability in the region?
So I think that's something that the UAE has really highlighted in themselves, and I think deservedly so. They've been very tolerant of many cultures, religions, and I think promoting that is a great thing for the region. They've also been a very good partner when it comes to the counterterrorism effort of the United States and the rest of the world when it comes to dealing with Al-Qaeda and their affiliates. They've been not only a good partner in the sense that they participate, show up, served in Afghanistan alongside us, obviously was the lead in Yemen, but they're really good. They have a very competent military. And as somebody who, I'm a retired Marine, I'm a retired CIA Paramilitary Officer. I know good militaries, and I know that they have capabilities that not every other country does. So I think they've been a really good partner for us when it comes to the counterterrorism effort. And as you mentioned, their position on tolerance, I think, is the right one.
I'm gonna discuss with you a story about the lawyer who is in the same time he's American, but Asim Ghafoor, he is arrested this month in UAE. He is accused by money laundering, and some groups, Islamic groups here in the US, are pressuring, and some members of Congress pressuring UAE to release him. He's at the same time, as I said, Khashoggi lawyer, the Saudi dissident and Washington Post columnist. So how do you see and the United Arab Emirates said that it was a request from the US. Can you tell us how such things works?
So I'm not entirely sure about the facts of this case, and I don't want to speculate and make assumptions on facts that I'm not familiar with. I can say in general, if the United States has a reason to believe somebody's committed a crime, I don't know about this individual, but this is in general, they can request that another country detain that person for what's called extradition back to the United States for trial, right? They still have to prove it in court whether the person did something beyond a reasonable doubt, but they can request from from other countries, certainly our partner countries like the UAE, to do a detention on an individual that there would likely have to have been a warrant out for that person's arrest already issued in the United States. So again, I don't know anything about this individual, but that's generally how it works when it comes to the U.S. or other countries requesting their citizens be returned for criminal prosecution.
On another topic, you have a philosophy of teaching ethics in both the military and the civilian life. How can you tell us more about it?
So my father kind of taught ethics through Greek philosophy, and particularly I was interested in what's called Stoicism, which goes back to the time of Socrates and right after Socrates, I would say. So you think in 300 years before Christ. So a long time. It's a philosophy that's existed throughout the world, not throughout the Middle East at the time, for sure. And it's something that's always been near and dear to my heart. And it's something that the military, especially the U.S. military, is always, in a way, taken as their own philosophy, because it really focuses on 4 cardinal virtues of courage, of wisdom, of temperance, and justice. And it's essentially to live life trying to aspire to be as best as you can on those categories, to be non-materialistic, not focus on the stuff you have, but the people you're with, I guess is the best way to put it. And it's essentially a life philosophy that I think is perfectly suited for myself, and I think everybody. Sometimes it gets pinned as a military philosophy. It really is not. Most of the key figures came from all walks of life. You've had Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor, to Epictetus, who was a slave, and they're both considered the most significant Stoic philosophers in history. So it really cuts across all ethnic groups, religions, socioeconomic groups, and it's actually a very much a growing phenomenon. I think even the Stoics, the philosophy professors, are surprised by the level of interest currently that people have in this ancient philosophy, and it's really good to see, because I think it just really focuses on what matters.
Very interesting. If you're going to talk about the Middle East again, do you think that the President Biden visit is enough to fix all the mistakes that this administration did regarding the Middle East, or the concern about the Middle East?
So I think it was a good step. I think that was the right thing to do. Obviously, there was controversy, as you mentioned, Khashoggi. I think that obviously should have been addressed, and as the president said, he did address it. But I think we have to, as a country, realize that the Middle East is an important region, always will be an important region, and we need to drop terms like pivoting out of our vocabulary, because to many of my friends in the Middle East, pivoting sounds more like we're turning our back. And I don't think that was what was intended when it comes to the phrase pivoting to the Far East. But that's the way it came across, and that is not what the United States should do. The United States should be a key partner to our partners in the region, period. And it shouldn't be something that's, we have a global war on terror that's the top of the charts, so now we're really focused on our partners in the Middle East. And as soon as we decide to end that, we pivot. I don't think that's the right way to look at our position in the world, or being a partner to our partners in the world. We're going to have differences. The United States is going to promote democracy, individual civil rights, as we should. But that doesn't mean we don't have a dialogue, and that doesn't mean we don't partner where it's advantageous to both countries. And I think that is something that the Biden administration fully understands. They may have, missed the message up front, but I think they're doing their best to make sure that is known by our partners in the region.
Nancy Pelosi, the House Speaker, announced her visit to Asia, and she's going to visit Taiwan. So how do you see the escalation in this matter?
So obviously, at least from the media reports, the White House is very concerned in the Department of Defense. So I don't know what they're looking at. I'm not in government anymore, but they obviously have something that indicates a threat to the speaker. So I would be concerned about that. But unfortunately, I think once it's leaked, or you leak that you're going to go to Taiwan, it's very difficult then to not go, because it would look somewhat weak if you said you were going to go, China threatened you, and then you did not go. So it's a bad, and I'm not saying that they deliberately leaked it, I have no idea, but it's a bad position to be in, because if she doesn't go now, it would look like basically China was successful in intimidating, the U.S. Speaker of the House, who's third in line to the President of the United States. So I don't know that it would have been a good idea to go, but now that it's known, I think she probably has to go. And I think that's unfortunate if this was not intended to leak. But it's important. The United States has, it's an interesting combination of policies. We have the one China policy, which is that we believe China, including Taiwan, is one country, right? But we also have a legal obligation to support them militarily, Taiwan that is, from any country, to include China. So it's difficult to see how those two policies can fit in the same sphere, but it is what it is, and that is our policy. We have a specific law that says the support of Taiwan Act. So we will support them militarily, and I think it would be very similar to what we're doing with Ukraine.
How do you see the Chinese government as a threat to the U.S.?
So we should look at China as a strategic competitor. That's the term we use now, because they are. They are growing. Their economy was growing. I know it's had some bumps recently, but overall, they are a significant country that has a lot of influence in the world. So I don't think it's helpful to view everybody as friend or enemy, because that's just not the case. I don't think we should want China as an enemy, and China should not want the United States as an enemy. But we should view them with some hesitation, because they are very much about essentially stealing trade secrets from the United States, which is the way they use to drive their development in their country, and that's something the United States should be guarded against. It's not how countries should do business. They should have their own innovation and technology sector, and they shouldn't necessarily go to steal all the secrets from another country. But that's one part of the competition that I think we should focus on. I would say that although I think China has a substantial military, it's actually nothing compared to the United States. If you really look at, and you can see what the Russian military, how we overestimated their capability in Ukraine. I think we should be careful not to overestimate the Chinese capabilities, because they're not like the United States. They might be the closest thing to it, but we're still leaps and bounds over their capabilities. And I think that's done for a reason. But when it comes to China, I don't think we should view them as an enemy until they make themselves an enemy, and then we should be prepared. But until then, we should compete with them strategically, and hopefully win the day when it comes to the battle of philosophies, theirs being autocracy and ours being democracy.
Mick Mulroy, thank you so much for this interview. I'm so glad to have you on my show.
Thank you, Maria. It was great to be with you.
Hey, Maria Maloof here. Please click to like and subscribe to Maria Maloof TV YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.